Hey folks, John Ferguson Smart here. I had a question recently about class structures. How do you organize your classes when you are doing test automation? Now, if you've done any sort of learning around object-oriented programming, you know about hierarchies and you know about inheritance and you know about the idea of having a base class, maybe for your page objects. Maybe you have a base page object and then your page objects might all extend from this, and then you might have small page objects further down that extend from that. We see a lot of that if you look at the WebDriver test code, the WebDriver source code, for example. There's a lot of that, which is fine. But my take is for test automation code, you want to go light on inheritance. You don't want to overdo it. There's actually a much better way of organizing your test code. See, the problem with inheritance is what generally happens is it gets very messy. We have a page object here which might represent your application page. Then we have a page object down here which represents a sales page, and a page object which represents a checkout page, for example. And these have common things together. We might have a menu bar. Then we have a third page which doesn't have a menu bar. So we've put our menu bar in our base class, but that doesn't work. So we need another class in between to contain the menu bar, and then our page objects underneath the menu bar, then another one over here that doesn't have a menu bar. And very quickly it gets very confusing and very hard to maintain. It also, at the page object level, it also means you're very closely tied, closely coupled to the exact structure of your user interface, which is not great. A better approach, I find, is to use what we call composition. Composition is, rather than having a hierarchy, rather than deriving all your classes from other parent classes, when you need to do something, you create an object that takes care of it. If you have a menu, then you create an object that represents that menu. And then if you have another class or a test that uses that menu, or another class that needs that menu, then that class will just refer to that menu object over here. It won't inherit from some parent class that has a menu. And same thing if you have, I don't know, a checkout button or a price list or a list of items in your shopping cart. They could all be separate objects, and then when you need them in different places, you take them and use them. You don't try and put everything up the top. Even common functionality. Common functionality, if you have a utils or a helper package, that's often a sign that you have common functionality that you're sort of bundling into one place that may not be related. That's often better practice to separate those out into classes or objects that do specific jobs, and then call them in when you need them. So that's basically a tip that I find very helpful. Try and don't go too heavy on inheritance, lighten up on the inheritance, and favor what we call composition, creating separate small objects that take care of particular jobs and that you pull in when you need to. That's my tip for today. Thanks for listening, folks.